Okay, let's talk about creating and deploying a printer using a group policy. Now, I actually don't have any printers attached to this system, so we're going to have to get a little bit creative, but I'm going to walk you through the process anyway. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to Tools and Print Management. This is where we're going to manage all of our printing. And so we'll see filters and print servers and our current server and then drivers, forms, ports, printers, and then deployed printers. Now, let's start by adding a printer. So I'm going to come to my printers, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a new printer. Now I can search the network for printers, add one based on TCP or web services, add a new printer using an existing port, and that's what I'm going to do because I don't actually have anything to connect with, and then create a new port. So I'm going to add one using a new port, and I'm going to install a new driver for it. And normally what you would do is you would have disks. These are just Microsoft generic drivers. And honestly, there's not that many. There used to be a whole lot more, but I think Microsoft just got tired of trying to keep up with all of them. So they got rid of all of them and they're just doing generic ones now. So I'm going to use a Microsoft generic PCL Class 6 driver. And I'm going to click Next. Let me set the printer name and I'm going to call it Company Printer. Then I'm going to tell it to share this printer and I'm going to change the share name to Company Printer without a space. That just makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to connect to it. If you're trying to do things manually, not having to put that space in and put it in quotation marks kind of simplifies your life. I can also set a location and a comment if I want. I don't really care. So I'm going to click Next at this point, and that's going to create the printer for me. I really don't want to print a test page since there's nothing there. So now I have Company Printer. Now at this point, somebody could browse to my server, find the printer, right-click on the printer, connect to it, and then print to it, which is great. However, I can simplify this process a little bit by deploying it in group policy. Now remember, group policies get associated with specific organizational units. So that's going to be an issue when you go to deploy a printer. You're going to think about where do I want it to go? Who do I want to have access to this automatically? So I'm going to choose deploy with group policy. And then I am going to, under GPO name here, I'm going to browse. And it'll figure it out sooner or later. So testgroup.local is trying to contact its other domain controller. There we go. We're starting to get there. So I'm going to create a new policy. Now I can look at an existing group policy. I actually want to create a new one. It's still taking a second to find that. So I'm going to create a new group policy. And it's going to take it a minute to catch up and realize where we're at. See if I can come over to all here and create a new policy here. I'm going to call this printer. And we'll just call it printer. And click OK. All right, so that gives me a group policy object. Now, do I want to do this per computer or per user? And that are going to be these two options. And I want to do this to users, which means I have to choose a GPO that has users in it. I can also choose to do it to specific computers regardless of which user logs in. So I'm going to add that. And so now I have test server 1 company printer, GPO printer connection type per user. And I'm going to click apply. And then printer deployment or removal succeeded. So I'm going to hit OK and OK. Now let's go see if this did what we wanted it to do or if we're going to have to encourage it along a little bit. So I'm going to go to Tools and Group Policy Management. And now I have a printer policy. And I want to look and see, and I don't actually see that linked anywhere. So I want to link that to my company. So I'm going to right click on company, say link an existing GPO, choose printers, and now I've got two GPOs linked to that. So when somebody who's in my company OU signs into the system, they're going to get the restrictions defined here, and they're going to get the printer that's defined there. So my printer is now deployed in group policy and will be available as soon as somebody in the company organizational unit logs in.